Hello and welcome to another episode of Half Court Press, production of the Omaha World-Herald. He's Wilson Moore. I'm John Walker. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk ball for the next half hour or so. So buckle up for what should be a pretty loaded episode.
You really hyped that up there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why not?
We deserve it.
Yeah. But before we dive into what has been an interesting, kind of news-filled, not newsworthy week, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Week on I-80 between Nebraska and Creighton. Before we dive into all of that, Wilson, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing well.
That's
yeah,
good.
had a nice little drive down here. You know, as the people watching the video can see, we're doing this a bit later than we usually do.
Yeah. Usually we got some sun peeking in from the windows behind us.
Half court press after dark. You never know what can happen.
Dude, we don't know what's going to happen on half court press daytime. So when the sun goes down, who knows?
Yeah, anything goes.
It sure does. I'm
including some news on the Creighton beat.
Including some news on the Creighton beat. I'm chilling. I say that. I should say that loosely. I'm good. Chilling is probably not the thing to do, but I'm good.
Neither of us are chilling until at least April.
No, we sleep in April, I guess. And yeah, man, it's just been Creighton, Nebraska. They have only played one game since our last episode. Both only had one availability. So, that was kind of the news-filled, not newsworthy. Is not a lot has happened, but boy, have some things. Including, I don't know, maybe an hour before we hopped in the studio on Thursday night, that Creighton freshman Larry Johnson is no longer with the program. Pretty... I don't want to say shocking. It is a shocking development, but this has kind of been expected, if you will, for quite some time. So yeah, I was told on Thursday afternoon, and somebody confirmed it to me that Larry Johnson, as well as redshirt freshman Sterling Knox, no longer at Creighton. They're both planning on exploring their options in the transfer portal. I want to make it very clear, because I think there's some confusion out there. Neither one of them were kicked off the team. Neither one. Johnson, not kicked off. Knox, not kicked off. And they decided to leave, or decided that they will leave eventually whenever the portal opens in March. So just to kind of throw everything we know out there, for transparency's sake, I just butchered that, didn't I?
I think you invented a new word.
I sure did. Transparity?
A combination between transparent and parody.
Yeah.
Like transparent in the parody of a situation.
For newly minted word transparency's sake.
I don't think it really applies there.
I don't think so.
Beside the point.
I'm not even going to do it. But, I was told that Larry Johnson was previously suspended for what I was told is a violation of team rules. During his suspension, he decided that he wanted to enter the portal. And so he's no longer with the program. Sterling Knox no longer with the program. And then Thursday afternoon, Joe Tipton reported that, yes, Larry Johnson was filing the paperwork to enter the portal, even though it doesn't open until March 17th. Yeah. So we'll talk about what that means for Creighton as we dig a little bit deeper into this episode. But it is undoubtedly an interesting situation that leaves the Jays already shorthanded without another piece on their roster.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's another thing that's happened since the last time we recorded is Pop Isaacs is now out of the picture.
Yeah.
He had surgery, right?
Yep.
And he's done for the season. I know we were talking before this, said there might have been a possibility they waived Larry Johnson's red shirt, right?
Yeah.
Because they needed wings there, and now they're down 2.
Yeah.
I think that's, for a team that has aspirations of a Final Four, that's tough, to lose one of your better scorers and a high potential freshman who was redshirting at the time but could have potentially made an impact.
Absolutely.
That's tough. And there's a lot of season left to go, and the Big East is not for the faint of heart. And that is a tough road to go when you're as shorthanded as Creighton's going to be for the next, it's December, 4 months.
Yeah. It's like trying to drive a car without two wheels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A bumpy road, like trying to now navigate the Big East. In one more marquee non-conference finale that we'll talk about in a few minutes, it's like trying to drive a car on a gravel road with two tires. It really is. So it's going to be tough. Obviously, March depends on the draw, depends on how you're playing, depends who's hot, depends on the matchup, depends on the day. But I don't know if this team is exactly looking into Final Four aspirations at the moment, all things considered.
Yeah.
Maybe that changes if an international player gets cleared, if he gets cleared. But right now, it's so hard to imagine this team playing in a Final Four without Pop Isaacs, with little to none guard depth. It'd be tough, man. Yeah. So, no, it's going to be tough. I'll talk about Pop Isaacs here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of that's out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to ask, so who has to step up now?
Yeah.
And whose time is it?
Yeah. It's, you would say Sterling Knox was in the mix. Not anymore. He redshirted last year, and I think Greg McDermott said at one point he's got a little bit to go, but he's close. Well, now that's kind of out of the pic. Yeah. He's out of the picture. So it's going to be Stephen Ashworth, Jemiah Neal slid to the 2. Talk more about that when we talk about the UNLV game from last weekend. So I assume that'll kind of be the adjustment, and they'll play somebody at the 3. So instead of having Ty Davis immediately step in and play in place of Pop Isaacs, it seems like Greg McDermott wants to slide Jemiah Neal to the 2, keep Ashworth at the 1, and have a hole to fill at the 3, which is probably the way to go for a couple of reasons. One, you now have size in the backcourt with Jemiah Neal. Stephen Ashworth 6'1", Pop Isaacs 6'2". That was kind of always the thing. Now, they're both quick guards, but they were undersized. Excuse me. So now Jemiah Neal sliding over to the 2 gives them a 6'5" off-ball guard. And then they can, plug and play. What do you want to do at the 3? Is it Mason Miller? Is it Jason Green? Is it, I don't know, do you play a lineup with Isaac Trout and Jackson McAndrew? Probably not, because they rotate at the 4. But the whole hodgepodge at the 4 that we talked about before the season is now crucial, because 2 of those guys are going to have to play the 3. I think it'll be Mason Miller and Jason Green. But when it comes to Creighton's backcourt, Ashworth, Neal, and then you have Ty Davis and walk-on Shane Thomas, who I think, I'm saying this on no merit, but I think based on the way Greg McDermott's talked about him, based on the role that he could have on this team the rest of the year, why can't Shane Thomas earn a scholarship? Yeah. You're down 2 already.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they still have to fulfill them, huh?
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, I don't know. It'll be those 4 in the backcourt. That's kind of it. And then if Fedor Zugic gets cleared. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah. It kind of feels like Creighton with its personnel, and this is obviously tough to do.
Sure.
In the middle of a season.
Right.
But it feels like Creighton could potentially have to change their identity a little bit.
I just told somebody that at Creighton practice today.
If you're down,
but I want to hear what you think they could switch to.
If you're down one of your main scorers in Pop Isaacs and a guy who potentially could score the ball, we'll never know how he would have done in a Creighton uniform, but like Larry Johnson. So instead of that, smaller, quicker, shoot lots of threes lineup, you say, okay, we're down guards, we got size. Jackson McAndrew is now the 3, plus that rotation at the power forward.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, Culk in the middle. Now you've got a supersized lineup. So you say we're going to take that lack of shooting, that scoring punch that we lost with Pop Isaacs, and instead just rebound, be physical, be tough, and try to win basketball games that way.
Yeah, the idea that I pitched, Pop was their second leading scorer behind only Ryan Kalkbrenner. Maybe Jemiah Neal will prove me wrong on this moving forward. But Pop Isaacs was their best creator, both for himself and for others. So that's the really, really, really tough thing to replace. And Jemiah brings a little bit of that. But when I was talking to somebody at Creighton practice, I said, what if they just anchor down defensively? What if they say, hey, we finished top 25 Ken Pom defensive efficiency each of the last 4 years. What if we just hung our hat on the end of the floor with the 7'1" rim protector?
Yeah.
And if we held opponents to, 60, 65 points, well, then maybe our scoring's enough.
Yeah.
I think that if Creighton held opponents to 60, 65 points, the scoring would be enough
with
this lineup.
So.
But I don't know. We'll find out very soon with a big test Saturday night. But Creighton, down a couple of pieces, now faces another deal of adversity. It's been a tumultuous first 5 weeks of the season. It is only December 12th. And just to rattle them off, Pop Isaacs missed the opener with the hip injury that he played through and then eventually sidelined him. Stephen Ashworth rolled his ankle against Nebraska.
Could you imagine if that injury had been as bad as Greg McDermott
Ashworth?
Initially? Yeah.
Dude, I don't even know where this team would be. And then you lose Larry Johnson, and then you lose Sterling, and your backcourt is Jemiah Neal and Ty Davis and Shane Thomas and the ghost of Fedor Zugic and half an ankle of Stephen Ashworth. Because, you were there after the Creighton, Nebraska game. They thought he was going to be out, what Greg McDermott said, a while.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Imagine if they were right in that prognosis.
Mm-hmm. So that happened, and then Ryan Kalkbrenner missed a game with the lower body injury.
Forgot about that.
Yep. And
that was this year?
And now you're down 2 players.
Yeah.
And you still don't have Fedor Zugic cleared. So it's been a tumultuous first 5 weeks of the season, to say the least.